Hey, Fiends Films fans, I'm Mike Fitzgerald.
And I'm Madeline, Destroyer of Worlds.
And here we're back with a new episode of The Fiends Reviews. This week we're reviewing the magnet release of the 2012 film The ABCs of Death. Well, the first thing I want to bring up is, despite the title, which is accurate to the sense that each of these stories contains a, if not numerous, deaths, this is not necessarily a horror film.
Not at all.
Would you agree on that?
No. It should be called the ABCs of weird Japanese movies.
Okay. It is called the ABCs because there are 26 segments directed by 26 directors. Each was assigned a letter and used that as the basis for their story to varying results. Conceptually, I think that's a great idea. Overall, judging the project overall, how do you see? Great idea. Overall, the execution.
Great idea. Fell flat on execution. And the thing is, it's like there's not one person to blame, because there were some really interesting films, but it was minimal. The really bad just completely outnumbered anything that was interesting. Like, you were bored out of your mind until we got to you.
Yeah, I won't go that far, but I did expect more hits. I really thought this was going to be the kind of anthology where you couldn't go wrong. Given 26 shorts, I assume if I don't like the first one or the second or whatever letter, that there'd be something shortly thereafter following up on it, which I would enjoy. And I have to say only a small number of them did. And I think at first when we originally talked about reviewing the ABCs of Death, I thought, well, this is going to be such a rich, experience that we would have to do individual episodes for each letter or pairs of letter. But I think everything can be wrapped up in just this one. I mean, I think we can just quickly breeze through the entire alphabet. I mean, if we start with A, and we're not going to I don't think we should even give away what the letters stand for, because oftentimes
it got more entertaining for us to try and guess what the letter is, because they give you the title after the segment, so we would sit there and try to guess. I mean, you could place bets on that, make a that
was the voice of Jurassic Jim off working the camera. So if anyone wonders who's sighing in the background or occasionally laughing or making other comments, that's Jurassic Jim. But yeah, some of these, there was one, and I'm going to have to say, one of my least favorites, it's a close tie with G. For least favorites would be the Ty West contribution, which actually relies on the title card, which come at the end, as you said, to inform you to end the story.
Or to add shock value. Like, it would honestly been just some boring film. Like, why did someone film this? And then the end, it adds a kind of offensive shock value. Not like a good shock value, kind of offensive shock value. Yeah,
and considering his renown as a director of The Innkeepers, House of the Devil, I just had a segment on the VHS anthology. He's well respected. I really thought this was a minimalist effort on his part.
It was like, I don't need the money. I'm just going to, do it with someone over the weekend. Even if that, it looked like it could have been done in a day.
It really, it had one of the lowest production values of, I think, all the segments.
Yeah.
And that's just not me beating up on Ty West because he's not one of my favorites. Another one which I know we both didn't care for was G, one of two POV, point of view, stories, which actually almost kind of left us clueless and was the least horrific and more like a Nissan commercial.
Nissan commercials have more to them.
Yeah, the one where they're driving and they bring down the sunroof and look up into the sight skies, and yeah, that kind of reminded me of that. I mean, it was better shot than Ty West's M, but G had absolutely nothing, in my opinion, going for it. But let's use that as an opportunity to talk about the other POV segment, and
it was amazing.
Yeah, this really is what I thought, and this is the one of the few that's shown heavily in the trailer. You, which is what we thought we were getting when we decided to watch this movie. This was, at least, had the traditional horror elements and the horror theme that we expected from this anthology. Yeah, we imagined there was going to be some quirky ones.
Yeah.
And some people, or some comedic ones, or just some far out there ones. But I really think there was going to be more traditional horror.
I think we were kind of expecting 26 almost masters of horror. Like, something like that. There are masters of horror which are like, how is that really horror based? Like Chocolate. It's kind of, it's different. But that's what I was expecting, was even like kind of Twilight Zone material, stuff like that, but just very short films, which people do online all the time, and instead it was definitely a mixed bag.
Oh, yeah. Like, I really thought, now, looking back after having watched all the segments, looking back to the first one, I thought it was a little, like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed, and it was a good start, and it had some good, gore effects. But I still thought, oh, well, this is probably one of the, not necessarily one of the most accomplished ones, and because my expectations for this was so high. Now looking back, A was great compared to most of them.
Yeah.
B.
What was B again?
B was, because we're not going to share any spoilers in this.
Okay, looking through the rest of them, B wasn't too bad.
Well, yeah, at least it was in the horror theme.
So they faked us out, because that's like two somewhat horror movies.
C completely went downhill.
C was lame.
C was...
There's no other word.
C was backyard filmmaking.
Yes. Quite literally.
And I hate to suggest, and we were talking about this when we were watching it, that there is... You have an international... This is an international collection of short films. And I question and I consider whether some of these films were chosen to create an international collection, or were they chosen on their own, the films chosen on their own merit, or, oh, we have a chance to show a film from here and here and here globally, where maybe quality could have been more of an issue. I think C is an example of that.
D, I loved.
D, oh yes. Visually, incredible.
The whole thing's done in slow motion, great HD, and I don't want to give it away, but a fight takes place.
It's got humor, it's got tenderness, it's got violence. You at points disgusted at the thought of it, but it wraps up very nicely, and that worked very well. I can't even recall what E for.
Exterminate.
Yeah, that was Angela
Oh.
Bettis. That was one where
I was disappointed with that.
I was too, and the funny thing is, when we were watching it, I said, why am I thinking of Sick Girl?
Now, why did that remind you of that?
I was thinking, I see bug, I see a guy starting to, the bug kind of, or it was a spider messing with a guy, and the first thing came in my mind is he's going to, like, explode with little baby spiders. Which, Sick Girl...
Also, which featured or was directed by
Angela Bettis was in Sick Girl.
Okay.
She was in May. She was in the
I remember her
Toolbox
from May.
Murders
Okay.
remake.
Lucky McGee directed Sick Girl.
Yeah, Lucky McGee did Sick Girl. It was Masters of Horror.
So you think she may have been inspired by
Maybe,
her
I
work
don't
on
know.
Sick Girl?
It just seemed weird to me that I said, this reminds me of Sick Girl, and Angela Bettis was the one that directed it.
I think F was great for a laugh. F...
If you're a 10-year-old boy, yes.
If you're,
F was...
I think everybody. I mean, we have. I think our group that watches these films together, myself, Madeline, Jurassic Jim, and my wife, who you'll never see on camera. We all got a chuckle out of it because it was just completely ridiculous, and I think it was
very Japanese.
I think at that point you realize maybe at that. I think, was it at that point we realized we weren't going to get 26 horror segments? Or do you think it was later on?
I think it was at that point. I realized it pretty early on because, I saw a Japanese film, and even with kind of the way it was going, I mean, if you look at some of the Japanese horror films, they start out pretty ridiculous, and it's like, how are they going to make a horror movie out of that concept? And they do. They didn't with that. It was...
I believe they do have a Japanese horror movie right now. I think it's Swamp Ass or Zombie Ass. Something about flatulence and zombies, and that did remind me of...
They had a sword fight with girls whose swords came out of basically their tailbone, so they're just kind of wiggling their butts at each other. And, I want to say that was Japanese Gore Police.
Oh, okay.
Or Tokyo Gore Police. I want to. One week I just watched a whole bunch of gore films from...
Now, do you think that was just... F was just a... Was that a... Do you think they were trying to satire the Japanese gonzo style of storytelling? Or do you think that was just a... I mean, it was... Hold on, where are we?
Gonzo
F.
with
It was by a Japanese director, or do you think that was just his take?
It might have been just him.
Okay.
That might have been his idea of a love story.
All right. We mentioned G deserves the watery death that it portrays. I'm not even going to try to spare you from the spoilers for that one.
It's very short. You'll live through it.
Yeah. I was kind of disappointed by H. H is the one segment which I think had the most potential because it had furries in it.
H was crazy.
Yeah, but I would have liked to see... I think furries are freakish. And I think had they used furries in an actual horror story, it would have been more effective than the comic story that they told.
It didn't just have furries.
Well, it wasn't furries, it was...
James, if you want to talk, you can send the comment.
No.
It didn't just have furries.
Oh, sorry.
It had a Nazi. It was an interesting take on almost the men's adventure stories that you would get in like the dime store books, where it's this guy fighting like a crocodile that is run and some Nazis in the background and stuff. But I thought it was entertaining.
There will be more Nazis later in this.
Yes, there are more Nazis.
What
did you want to say, Jim?
Alright, we will continue on.
Moving on.
We had I, and that was the... the South American, or Mexican.
I was a kind of...
Why are you painting?
No, I'm fine. I got it. Relax, will you?
Okay. Alright. Everyone's still on
If she's gonna be this way, she's not gonna be in the film.
She's going to be in the episode. Okay. All right. As we were, that was the Mexican one.
That was a bit of a PSA.
Yeah.
We found out actually after the whole thing was done.
What and during the credits for that segment, it said
2001 or 2015 women a year in the last year were killed in Mexico, and that this is an issue that cannot be ignored any longer. So, and that you don't see that at the end of that letter. You see that at the end of the whole thing
during the credits.
During the credits, so
it was visually. I mean, visually well
intriguing.
composed, but wasn't clear. I wasn't clear on a story there.
Right, and when I know after I saw it was kind of a PSA, it kind of brought together for me.
Okay. Jay, well, we returned to Japan, and we just returned to...
Is that the one with...
outrageous humor?
Yeah. That one was just dumb. That was like, look what we can do with makeup effects.
All right. Well, I did recall hearing everybody laughing at one point or another, so it was amusing.
It had this odd subtext to this.
Then we have K is for Klutz, our first animated feature, which was entertaining. I'll give it that.
It was interesting.
It involves Squeaky Poo.
Squeaky Poo.
Okay, so this next one, L. This is, I think this is the most, or I would say this is probably the most controversial segment in terms of the content.
And unnecessary, like, not really, it wasn't really necessary for it to be, because if you think about the part of it that got us all, they could have done anything weird. They could have had a guy stripping a couch, painting a house, like.
Okay.
They could. They didn't have to go to that. They could have. Sorry.
Okay, but I guess at that point in the anthology, I was. Why? Yes, it had. It wasn't even disturbing imagery. Yes, there's the images of what, but they don't actually show.
Yeah.
Things are implied that are disturbing. Or we're really just talking about one thing towards the end of that segment, the implications of which we both find disturbing, but I was happy at that point at least that we had something that was disturbing or at least horrific.
Giving an emotional.
I wanted something horrific in this film, and I'm going to say I was glad someone brought that. We already went over Ty West's M. Wow, I'm blanking out. Oh,
the bird.
N was simply amusing.
And was just funny.
And
it was a comedy piece.
Oh, here's your favorite. Speaking of here's your favorite.
Or I would call it an art film. It was definitely art house.
I think the best way to describe it is we said that the French refer to the orgasm as la petite mort.
Yeah, and that
is pretty much all there is to know about that.
Had bubbles.
It had bubbles.
Had bubbles.
Okay. If there were any that I have to say were in my top, if I had to say one of my top ones, or maybe we'll go back and say which our favorite ones was, but without doubt for me, P.
P was another kind of commentary.
P could have stood for a lot of things in that short. P was the most realistic.
Mm-hmm.
P was a stark reality.
Mm-hmm.
I could easily connect to P. And I know you had trouble with some of the imagery at the end, or the suggestions of what occurred at the end.
I had the most trouble with P.
But I think P, like I said, with P and... Does this work with us just referring to letters? But you got to watch it for yourself. This is just our opinions, and we're just trying not to give too much away. But between P and L, I want to be disturbed. I needed to be disturbed given this much comedy that was in it. Then we have Q, which is one of two segments where the directors decide to be meta and discuss making their segments.
Yeah.
I don't know who the director Adam Wingard is. I guess a little research.
He was the guy in the movie.
Order. Well, he was the guy in the movie. I guess I'm wondering if I should know him because he did put his name at the bottom. I'll do some research later. But I didn't get a heck of a lot out of
Without
that.
they did get probably the most adorable duck in the world to
Yes.
be in it. I sat there, I was like, oh, I can never eat duck again. It's so cute.
Well, I'm going to have to say I am blanking out.
On R, that was the film one.
Oh!
The,
R had the best practical effects
yes,
of any segment.
and I thought the story was really interesting.
I was unclear as to what that story was, but it was visually appealing and outstanding practical effects. What the story was, I don't know. Then we're followed by S by
Jake West.
Jake West. And yes, maybe I should mention the directors of the other segments, but most of them being foreign and me being an ignorant American, I can't pronounce them. So I can pronounce Jake West. Sadly, I didn't get anything out of this segment. So what did you get, if anything, out of this segment?
It's a take on like Grindhouse, kind of faster Pussycat Kill movies, and that was definitely in it. I mean, you have girls running around in the desert with heels that, are like those, and corsets, and latex, and they have the Mustang. So it was.
They have the props of, but they might have the props of all these.
And a flamethrower.
These films that they want you to be nostalgic to, but they don't bring anything to the film.
They didn't really bring anything, but when you see the end, I thought the end really brought it all together and brought it all into focus, especially. Can't say much more because then I'll give away the whole thing.
Yeah, I can give you an example of some of the dialogue. Bitch, shut up, bitch, 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 bitch. Oh, bitch. Well, that's
a bitch.
I was not inspired.
That should have been a B.
B. B for bitch. Yeah, that would have been a lot more. T. One of the most.
T was disturbing. And it was
disturbing. Disturbing segments of the whole thing was actually directed by Lee Hardcastle, who won a contest to be the 26th director in the series, in this anthology. Very well disturbed, very disturbing, great use of claymation, and I'm glad I live in America. That's all I can tell you. And if you see it, you'll know why. You talked about it as the POV short. Excellent work done. What I was hoping for. The highest production values. The child, babe.
Oh yes, I liked V a lot.
Highest production values of any of the shorts. You had digital effects, you had makeup effects, you had
tattoos,
costuming, you had some great sets. I enjoyed it all around. Did have a particularly disturbing part, but for me as a parent, but still what I would have liked to see more of.
And how long would you say it was?
I don't know. It's kind of hard. I think a lot of I was working in the assumption that each of these were roughly about 3, maybe 4 minutes. Some felt much shorter, like G.
Yeah, G was.
And then, depending on how much you were enjoying it, some of them felt much longer.
I would say that was about 4 minutes, and I was impressed that they introduced an entire new dystopian future.
Mm-hmm.
Laws of that dystopian future.
In Vancouver.
You already felt
which
a lot
is not
for
what the V stands for.
The main character, you had established some type of liking for the main character, and they did this all in such a short time, and I hope that we will see more, because it kind of...
It was a complete story. Yeah.
Yes, it was a complete...
It was as you said, no, that's a great point. You did actually connect with characters in it, and which you don't usually have a time enough to do in any shorts, but and that was by Andrews. Last name Andrews. Carr. But I'm sure we'll have the name down at the bottom of the screen. Oh. Alright, and then
W.
No. Oh yes, W.
By say the title and say it fits very well.
By John Schnepp. Yeah, well, I don't know. I think we should stick with.
Doesn't give anything away.
Yeah, but we want people to be able to play the same game we played.
Okay.
The game you play is guessing. You know the letter, guessing what it stands for, and I don't think we want to give that away. But it is another meta. It's the other meta, where you have the filmmakers.
It's meta.
Talking about making the segment, but I think Jurassic Jim said it best when he reminded him of Tim and Eric.
Tim and Eric's awesome show.
Yeah. Awesome show, and I'm going to believe him on that, having never seen it. Then we go to France for X, which...
Another commentary.
Another commentary, but I didn't think it really said anything.
No.
It didn't really say anything that anyone else hasn't said before, or didn't. I guess it was more of exercise in practical effects.
Yeah.
I would have liked to
Practical
see
effects
something
were okay.
more between some other. I think it would have been more interesting if there was more of a connection between the lead character and the model whose image we see throughout. I know we believe that, and we'll have to check to see if they were both portrayed by the same actress, but it would have been in the story. Mm-hmm. It all gets weird from here. Y has one of the most disturbing gentlemen in it. I don't know what to say about
Y has a little kid running around with a dead deer's head on his head.
Well, there goes that rule.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't give
No, it doesn't. I really don't know if we could. I mean, we can tell you everything there is to Y, but I don't. Y.
Well, after hearing that, who would want to watch Y?
Y seemed like a music video.
Yes, Y was filmed in the style of a music video. It really was.
And
Z.
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 Z is
Nazis.
Z is. Well, there's a lot of Japanese. Well, there's a number of Japanese directors, and there's a number of Japanese influences. And Z was just. What is that style called? I mean, you talked about Tokyo Gore Police.
It's. I call it gore, Japanese gore films.
It's just Japanese gore films, and this is just. Z was just a ridiculous Japanese gore film, and there's nothing. We can't tell you a story. There's nothing to spoil about it. I can't pronounce the name of the word that the Z stands for. There are giant penises, and then there are very, very small penises. There are topless Nazis.
People sushi. There's people sushi.
Yeah.
Which I thought was clever, and there's sushi and rice. There's a lot of rice.
And there's
in
rice being smeared over breast. There's lots of breasts, and in this film, and most of them, I think, with the exception of the one in the Adam Wingate part. All right, I probably pronounced him. Sorry, Adam. Wingard. I think there were a lot of Japanese breasts in this anthology.
Yep.
I don't know if that's. I don't know if there's any meaning to that, but there's a lot of Japanese.
There's lots of Japanese
breasts. So if you're a fan of Japanese,
that was complete nudity.
Breasts. In the last one, but in this previous, a lot of the earlier segments, Japanese breasts. If you're a fan of Japanese breasts, you should rent
the ABCs of Death.
ABCs of Death. But I'm gonna say, I mean, look at the poster. We'll show it on screen, but look at the poster for the ABCs of Death and tell me how you could not expect this to have been a horror anthology. I mean, I love this poster. I will probably never watch this anthology again, but I'd still want to own this poster. It just reeks of horror, which unfortunately that this anthology does.
It doesn't reek of horror.
I don't know. What was your favorite?
My favorite was... It's between U and D.
U and D. Alright. Oh, okay. D for its... What quality
the
for D?
The imagery plus... I liked the story to it. I really did.
Yeah.
Liked... and just... The slow motion was right on. Okay. So I can't, of course I can't say everything about it because give away the whole damn thing. But I just loved it.
And you was probably closest to what we were expecting in terms of horror. Oh, and hey, you actually had a lot of great practical effects in it. Considering it was...
And it was all one continual shot.
Yeah, no? That could be cheated a lot.
Okay.
There are times where the screen goes really dark. To get you that, give you an example. Bruce Campbell did a film, Running Time, which was going to be one continuous shot akin to Alfred Hitchcock's film Rope, which was composed of these very long continuous shots. But in Running Time, there are ways to fake that continuous shot by tricking the eye through quick camera movements, or as in you going to a very dark screen and then you're in another shot. So your eye, and being a nighttime shot, it's easy to trick you like that. Okay. I mean, I could be completely wrong. It could have been.
And I was expecting a whole series of U's like this. So
yeah, we were hoping for lots of U's. Wow. So if I had to ask myself, I really enjoyed you. But yes, I said earlier on, I thought P was the best for me, just in terms of its realism. I still wouldn't have put it in this anthology if I thought this was going to be a straight up horror anthology. But possibly with, I mean, I think almost maybe with that ending. But I think it could have been taken. It may, as a short, taken outside of this anthology, it could probably be taken even more seriously.
There's more social commentary in this.
Oh, there's more. There's tons of social commentary in P.
But a lot of them have very obvious just social commentary and
not much in terms of
horror films.
Horror. But simply, we got deaths like we're promised. All right,
Shouldn't we ask Jurassic Jim what he his favorites were?
Well, Jurassic Jim's not on screen, but if he does
It's
want...
not Jurassic Jim, I'm Ghost Jim.
Oh, Ghost Jim. Okay, if Ghost Jim wants to chime in on his favorite, we'll listen.
That was D and V, actually. So.
D, which you enjoyed, and V, which is...
Yeah.
D was the one with all the slow motion. Using a high-speed camera, let's
Right.
make sure. And the high definition. Great visuals. And V is the one we discussed, which had the complete story and the highest production values. All right. I can't... overall, I can't recommend this for everyone. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for people who are looking for horror. But if someone is looking for, I would have to say, an oddball, eclectic group of shorts, yes. But why they are linked together in that they all feature deaths and are based on letters of the alphabet. I think I would just as easily advise you to go online, go to YouTube, and seek out some short films by lesser known or unknown directors. Give anyone a chance.
I've seen a lot more impressive material by just putting in like independent horror short or Lovecraft short, or even I found a few Stephen King shorts that were like made on a weekend on a shoestring budget. They had like a lemonade stand so that they could pay for fake blood, and those were much more impressive. So,
yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we have to say about the ABCs of death. And
overall, I found it just to be... I was disappointed. I was really looking forward to it.
I've enjoyed a lot of things from Magnet releasing. And I think most of the disappointment comes from what I felt it was maybe I misinterpreted, or it was advertised as something
it was
other than what it
certainly
was.
advertised as something. I mean, if you look at the trailer, you think you're coming into like horror shorts, or even Gonzo, or even Grindhouse, things that like that. But no.
All right, and I think we're gonna hope to, if we can get a hands on a copy next week, we're gonna go back into Jeffrey Combs country and watch. I think it's it's new. I don't know if it's new from 2012 or 2013, but Would You Rather, featuring Jeffrey Combs and Sasha Grey.
And Brittany Snow? Is that her name?
I don't think it's Brittany Snow.
I'm
But
sorry.
we'll find out. Hopefully we'll know more next time. Till then, thanks for watching.